me and my friends like to joke. It's like I've gone close to a year without speaking, right? And all of a sudden I'm speaking 4 times this month, and it's all happening back to back, and it's either you're doing it all or you're not doing it. So, and I blame myself, right? Devin asked me to speak at a treatment center a couple of weeks ago, and I'm all charged up after I do it. We're talking, and I'm like, let me know if you ever need anybody to speak. And then he asks me again, and I'm like, shoot. My apologies. So yeah, I can remember there was no problems with substances in my family growing up. My dad's not an alcoholic. Alcoholism runs in his family. My uncle passed away from this illness. He was pretty much told, like, you have a chance to live if you can stop drinking. He was probably 50 something at the time, and he just couldn't stop. You know, his kidneys were shutting down, his liver was shutting down, and everything was failing. And the doctor's like, you got to stop drinking, and he couldn't stop. And it's funny because growing up, that's always what my dad would say to me. You remind me of my brother Mike. Your laugh and your smile and the way that you act and everything. And lo and behold, I'm the one in my family that ends up just like him. But I'm actually grateful that I am the way that I am, and I don't think I would have been telling you that 4.5 years ago. The change in perspective that I perceived in this program through good sponsorship. I've had two sponsors this time around, actually 3. I mean, if you count one of them, it was like a week thing. But good sponsorship has kept me in this program, you know. But I remember growing up, there was always this secret in the family. There was always like what happens inside these 4 walls doesn't leave these 4 walls. And like I said, there was no like abuse. There was no, I guess my parents verbally abused each other, but I never really like looked at it like there was always just something that we weren't telling the outside world. And like going to my brother's sporting events, my sister's dance recitals, all that stuff, it's like seeing all of my fellows' parents, it's like they get along perfectly fine, and we're gonna go home, and on the drive home, everyth's gonna be a ruckus. And as a kid, it's like the message I'm getting is lie about how you're really doing. You know, lie about what's really going on, and just the mixed messages that sends to any kid. You know, and my dad would always say things like, "I'm not staying with your mother," and I think that's where I can remember alcoholism at its most, because my brother and sister seemed unaffected by all of it. You know, they still are seemingly to this day. They lead normal lives. They consume substances, and they seem to not have a problem with it. But like I got that first substance, and it was like we're running this until the wheels fall off. You know, I could have used the substance long before I got my hands on one. I think my first the ism came out in video games majorly for me as a kid. It was like I can isolate, be by myself, maybe talk to a couple of homies on the mic, and like get off on this stuff for a long time, and that worked. But I was always a fearful, self-conscious. I mean, from the earliest of ages that I can remember, I think if you ask my mom, there was a specific memory, and I remember it too. I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and I think this was the first time that I actually got scared, because you know most kids like they're just free. They run around, they pick stuff up off the ground, they'll pick up a bug, they'll show you a bug, and like we infect them with our fear. It's like, hey dad, look at this bug, and like, oh my god, put the bug down, and like the kid learns that bugs are bad, and the fear starts right there. But I accidentally called 911, and the cop showed up to my house. And like I said, I'm like 3 or 4 years old, and this cop just reams me. He's like yelling at me as a 3 or 4 year old. And I remember from that moment on, it was like cops are bad and adults are bad. And it's like I was scared of everything after that. I remember my mom used to have to leave notes around the house, because my brother and sister are a couple years older than me. So when I was a little toddler, little kid, they were all gone at school. My mom would wake up in the morning to go work out or something, and she'd have to leave like notes places because I think that she got arrested or she got taken away or like she left me and wasn't going to come home. Just all these insane fears that I was living with as a little kid. I vividly remember, you know? So like fast forwarding a bit through that, because I think my years leading up to my first drink, it was like I was holding on. I was always defiant. Don't give me homework. I'm not going to do it anyways. It's just how I was in school. You know, it was, don't ask me to take the trash out, even if I was already going to, because the minute you ask me, I don't want to do it anymore. That's just wired deeply in me. And my sponsor talks about that a lot. It's the outstanding character defect of us. We're just defiant brats. You know, we don't want to grow up. And that's how it was. It was like, Jack, do your homework. And it's like, no, I think I'm going to go play video games, or no, I'm going to go outside and play with my friend. My parents had no like parental control over me, and that continued into my teen years. And when I got my first time getting loaded, I remember it vividly. I took like 7 beer bongs with my sister, and I was drunk. And I wasn't an overnighter with alcohol. I remember vividly thinking I will do this again, but it wasn't like, okay, I'm doing this tomorrow. But I had a good time. You know, I laughed. I learned that what these older people in these classes in school were telling me is like, they were lying. I didn't get arrested. I didn't break a window. I didn't hurt myself severely drinking. It was like I had a really good time and I felt really good we were just talking about that before I came here. It's like how that just starts. You know, it's like you do it one time and it's like, I've been lied to about it. This is amazing. Why have I not been doing this the whole time? And like instantly it's like taking the steps. You know, I firmly believe that I really truly start to believe in these steps when I can feel and see the results in my life, right? It's the same thing with drugs and alcohol. It's like I guess I'll just say I belong to a couple other fellowships. I know this is AA. I'm not going to talk about other substances, but just so you guys know me, I am a part of other fellowships, and I do have other poisons. So I forgot where I was. But yeah, I get loaded for the first time, and it's like I'm doing it again. And I remember the next significant event is, well, I started dating a girl, and it was like, that was cool. You know, it was like kissing girls and going through puberty, having all these hormones, and I'm feeling good, you know. And then the next significant event I remember, I was always a good athlete too. It's like, couldn't pass school, but I'm a good athlete. So it's like school would always somehow make it work for me because I was good at sports, and somehow I passed grades. You know, that's just how it went. I remember my freshman year of high school, I was failing. I was probably failing all my classes, but I for sure had 2 Fs, and I was suspended for the first 5 games of basketball. And I remember not doing much work, but them somehow getting me back on the court. You know, and that's just how it went. I was credit deficient as heck going into my junior year, and that's another story. But my parents got divorced halfway through my freshman year. It was a long time coming. I think I knew at some point it wasn't going to work out. Like I said, my dad was saying every other month he's leaving my mom. So it finally reached a point, and probably the best thing that could have ever happened to them, but I took it personal because my brother and sister were gone, and I was the only kid left at home, and I'm 15 at this time. I'm like getting loaded, and I remember vividly after that, it was like every single day I'm getting loaded, you know, every single day. That's just when the switch, it wasn't even about their divorce. It was like something just switched in me at that point, and it was like, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'll be. This is who I'm going to be with. Don't ask questions, you know? And I can't lie, it was fun. It was a blast for a very, very long time. I loved getting loaded. I loved the people that I was getting loaded with. At least I thought I did. Like, I can't honestly say that the whole thing was bad. I can say that over a period of time, the consequences started coming. You know, I got my first DUI, and that wasn't even the first one. I barely graduated high school. I'm 24 years old. I got sober when I was 19. And I barely graduated high school. I had like 8 credits going into my junior year, and I wasn't doing normal things that I swear that juniors in high school are doing. And I couldn't seem to find the right track. It was like my parents were always just like hoping on a limb that someday it would just switch, and I'd be like, I really want to get into this school thing. I really want to go to college, and like maybe he'll get a life. And it's like it never happened. You know, I just continued to do the same thing repetitively. And I got put into this alternative education program for kids that pretty much aren't going to make it. They aren't going to graduate. And it's like a work release program, and they help credit deficient kids get a diploma. And I still cheated that. It was like the easiest thing in the world to achieve. And I'm still like I remember my final for psychology, my senior year, my teacher's like typing my paper, and I'm like extremely intoxicated, sitting behind her, like halfway telling her what to say. Not really. She's just getting me a grade so that I can get my diploma. And I remember that was another big one, my graduation. I walked. I remember all the kids in my grade were going out to party. They were going to do what kids did, and I'm already a loner. I'm already loaded through the whole ceremony, and I'm going to get loaded by myself afterwards. I'm not going to hang out with you guys. The party ended pretty quickly for me, and that summer afterwards is when I got my first DUI. My poor sister, she had gone off to school. She was a senior, I want to say, at the University of Missouri, and she came back. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and she had come home for that summer. She normally stayed in Columbia for the summer, and I remember this hitting me pretty hard. She came home because her baby brother wasn't going to live another summer. It was like, I'm coming to spend time with him because I don't know if he's going to make it through the summer, you know? And then just the tremendous amount of harm that I put her through those 3 months that she was back. I mean, I was in a partial treatment center, getting loaded afterwards, getting loaded the whole time. And then I remember I stole her car. One night she was out, took her car, took her keys, got extremely intoxicated, like to the point where I think the police report was there were 7 911 calls on my driving. Happy birthday, by the way. I totally forgot that. 2 years. That's a big deal. So anyways, I'm extremely inebriated, and I get pulled over, and the cop comes up to my window, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, dude, you already know what's going on. Like, I've been sleeping the last 16 miles I've been driving down this highway. Literally, like, I woke up to the side of the highway several times. Don't know how I didn't kill anybody. Don't know if I killed anybody. It's like, looking back on a lot of things that I did when I was getting loaded, it's a miracle that I'm not dead or sitting in prison right now. I don't remember a lot of stuff. And lo and behold, the first person that I call after the officer's like, our jails are booked. You get one phone call. If they answer, you're free to go. If not, we're booking you. So the first person I think to call is my sister after getting a DUI in her car. And this poor girl answers, and it's not my cell phone that I'm calling off of. It's the cops, and I'm telling her what's going on, and like I can just see the shame in her. Her car's towed. It's gone. She showed up with her boyfriend to pick me up from the hospital where I had to give blood so they could see what was in my system. But that's what I do. I mean, I just hurt the people that are close to me. That they'll always get the grunt of my alcoholism still to this day sober. And like that's the crux of that's the whole thing about this is I just have too much me stuck on me all the time, and I can't think about you. If I could, I probably wouldn't have so many problems, but I need to feel good, and I need to feel good now. And that doesn't really matter if it's at the expense of anybody else. So that was like my consequence. I got my license taken away. My car was already crashed. I already crashed that. I put it in a ditch. Intoxicated, of course. So that's why I had to steal my sister's, because I had already crashed mine. And things just got worse. I mean, I'd go to treatment. Parents would send me to treatment. I'd get clean for a couple months. I'd get out, and it'd be like I'm doing the same thing. Sometimes I wouldn't even make it out of the sober living before I got loaded. It's like, I can get a month or two sober, but like I'm fiending, you know what I mean? I want that buzz, and I want it now, and I'm not doing what you guys are doing to get it. Cause I'm just like Nick. I was in and out of AA and other fellowships, and like, I really truly believe that you guys were doing something on the outside coming here. You were getting loaded. Like, I'm like, these guys got to be smoking weed or something, and I'm just missing something. Like, that's really what I believed. I just didn't see how people could be so happy, joyous, and free, as we would say here, like stone cold sober. It just didn't make sense. And I ran it till the wheels fell off. And luckily, I mean, there's so many godsends in my story, and my parents getting divorced ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. Well, go figure, you know, something that I thought was completely personal and messed up, and I can't believe they would do that. My dad gets remarried, and his current wife, my stepmother, has one of the biggest parts in me standing here today. One of the, if not the biggest. And she was married to, so previously she was married to a drug addict, alcoholic, and she had been married to him for many years. She had kids with him and everything, and she had been to Al-Anon. And she gets in a relationship with my dad, marries him, and she sees what a little mother effer I am. You know, I'm running around being a real you know what, and she's like, you got to get rid of him. He's got to go. And like, that's exactly what happened. I was cut off almost immediately after I went to high school. After I graduated high school, it was like, you got to go figure your stuff out, you know? And thank God she did that. And then she plays a bigger role in me getting out here. Cause like I said, I'm from Milwaukee, and I went through a treatment center in Prescott, and she was a teacher, and she had taught a gentleman that was the program director at the treatment center that I went through. And she knew this guy and was like, hey, my new husband's son he's spinning out. He's not doing good. What can we do with him? And I end up out here, and like I said, parents sent me to treatment. It's like, I'm still not ready. I'll come do my time. I'll stay sober long enough to get everybody off my back, tell you I'm doing a 4-step, tell you I believe in God, but I don't. And I got loaded. I paid the price. You know, I went back home, and after 4 months, I was 4 months sober. So I came out here February 11th of 2016, and I got loaded again after 4 months, at 4 or 5 months of being here. And I was supposed to go home and be the amended Jack and do great things and show my family I'm doing so well. And I got loaded before I even left town, and caused so much harm at my father's birthday party. It was a mess. And I even proceeded in telling him a formal amends under the influence of substances. It was, looking back on it, it makes perfect sense. It's like the substance that's giving me what these steps give me now. I was able to proceed with giving him probably the most spiritual amends I could have ever given, you know? Not really, because it meant nothing, but I ended up, this was the first time I probably was able to, this one, so my sponsor says self, me, higher self being like intuition, God. And this was probably the first time that I had actually heard God speak to me, my intuition. Something was talking to me, and I'm in the middle. I'm just coming off a 3-day bender, and like I'm talking like blacked out for 3 days. Don't really know what just happened because I didn't remember anything. And I'm coming out of it, and I have all my stuff is back here. I was supposed to get on a plane and come back. So this was Sunday. I went back on a Friday, got loaded for those 3 days. And I think this must have been Monday then. So I woke up Monday, and I'm like setting up all these plans. I'm like, I can't go back there. Even though all my clothes, everything, all my belongings are in Prescott. I'm back in Milwaukee. And like I swear to God, my best thinking is text my buddy in Colorado and get it set up for me to just go live with him. Give me a job, go live on his couch, avoid whatever was happening in Wisconsin as if it's not going to happen in Colorado, and just move on with my life, you know, deal with the Prescott stuff later. They can sell my stuff, keep my stuff, do whatever they want with it. But to me, it was easier to just avoid it than to come back and face it. And like I said, the first time I heard God, it was really simple. It was go back to Prescott. And like I had already set up everything with my buddy to go out to Colorado, and like it was probably the first healthy decision I had made for myself in a long time. And it was just, okay, I'm going back to Prescott. That's what I'm doing. And I got back on the plane, and this was June 14th. I was loaded when I got back on the plane, and June 15th is my sobriety date. And I didn't know that the week that I came back, I would be launching out on a vigorous course of action, which I did. I was beaten. I was ready. I was convinced, you know, and that's when I first got sober, that was talked about a lot. It still is talked about a lot. I talked to the guys that I sponsor about it. I can't convince you guys, you know, you're going to have to go out and do the research by yourself and figure out, if you're like us, if you truly have a problem with substances. So I get back, and I was welcomed by the group of guys that I had been getting sober with. And it probably wasn't the first time that it happened. I got off the shuttle, group of guys is there. They love me. You know what I mean? I'm getting off the shuttle. I'm all messed up. I'm beating myself up bad. You know, everything, the world's ending, and all these guys, they're just loving me. They're telling me it's okay. They're walking me back to the house. And I felt it, you know, I felt the genuine care that they had for me after picking me up at that shuttle. And I went home, and like I said, I was just beat up, and whatever happened from there, it was like program director told me, just, are you getting back on the plane? And it was like, yes, I'm getting back on the plane. And like, when I got back, it was like, whatever was going to happen was going to happen. I had no agenda. I just knew my agenda was it was done. Like my sponsor says, like, we talk about surrendering here, and it's like, what are we surrendering? We're surrendering our plan. That's what we're giving up. Essentially, it's like my plan got me to this podium speaking in front of you guys, or to a treatment center 4.5 years ago. It didn't really work that great, and it still doesn't work that well today. So I just have to keep myself in check. And I got a new sponsor, and that was like the second, like, okay, maybe this is meant to be, because the sponsor that I got was, and he had a big resentment on the place that I was living at, and the people that were running it. And he was there because he was gambling with one of the people that worked there, and he didn't have a ride home. So he just happened to be at the circle that we were running, and he starts sharing his experience. And we used to do these circles, and people would just share about what was going on. And he starts sharing, and we all have like this sponsor radar, you know. It's like, when we don't have a sponsor, my sponsor calls it a radar. It's like, turn it on, listen to people in meetings, see what's pinging, what direction are you going. And my sponsor radar instantly was like him, you know, and his name was Alex. And I went up to him after, and I think he was 29 or 30 at the time. And I'm like, hey man, my name's Jack, will you be my sponsor? And he shakes my hand, and he's like, yes, if you call me for 7 days in a row, don't miss a day, I'll be in Wisconsin. And if I don't answer, I'm pretty sure he said, leave a voicemail. And instantly I'm like, you're going back to Wisconsin? And he's like, yeah, that's where I'm from. And we get to talking a little bit, and this guy literally had the same story as me. You know, he had gotten sober at 19. He went through the house that I was going through, went to the same high school, grew up in the same town, and he was 11 years sober. And I'm like, what? Like, this stars align, you know. This one time that he's here is the time I'm desperate enough to walk up and ask him to be my sponsor. And it's that's where the journey started for me. All the other times in treatment, I wasn't willing. All the other times in these chairs, I wasn't willing to simply take direction and just say okay and do what somebody else had in store for me. And still, that is still the recipe for me to get free of myself today. It's like, hey man, what would you have me do? What would you have me be? Where would you have me go? It's like constant communication with this thing that I call God now, and it continues to save my life. My journey through the steps was the first time, I'm going to say it was simple because I was just ready. It was like, just tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. And I put pen to paper. I sat with different people. I did inventory. And it's like, like Nick said, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing what a selfish prick I've been my whole life. And how I've really stepped on all these people's toes. And like looking at the 4th step and doing the 5th step right after, it's like, this whole thing is just evidence of what it looks like when I'm in the driver's seat and I'm playing God and what I'm believing, you know? And it's like, I don't want to taste this anymore. I don't want to believe this. My life looks so drastically different when I'm not believing all the lies that my head tells me, because Nick's right. It's not real. It's all an illusion. I make these stories up in my head and I believe them. And that's the 5th step talks about exact natures. And I've learned my 2 exact natures are really simple, that I believe the judgments that my head tells me about you and about myself, and I act before I ask God what I should do. That's as simple as my inventory gets. It's like, if I can just stop, pause, breathe, and just ask something greater, like, hey, what would you have me do? Hey, can you help me speak at this podium? Hey, what would you have me do tonight? Things go very simply, you know, and that's what I've learned in this fellowship is take it easy. I would say through my time in these rooms, the step that I see the people go out the most on is 8 and 9. It's like the action actually starts. 6 and 7 too. It's like boys to men. We got to grow up here. You know, it's like I was saying earlier, we're defiant brats, and we don't want to change. We don't want to grow up. We don't want to stop taking. Because that's what we've done our whole life. And like some of this stuff still works. It's like if I can get something from you and manipulate you to do it, it's still serving me, you know? But like from my experience, when I start to actually taste what it feels like for that stuff to be done to me, I have a chance at changing. You know, it's like, do I know what it actually feels like to be point blank lied to and to the face, or to have something stolen from me, or whatever else it might be? Do I know what it's like to work with a crappy employee? Just all these things that I've been in delusion about. It's to sum up this program, it's just grow up. 8 and 9, grow up. The rubber meets the road. Like I guess we're given such a gift in these steps, because I always say it, but normal people do not go out and embed on making right harms that they've done several years ago. You know, I have a couple things left on my first 8 step. Almost all of mine are back in Wisconsin. And every time I go back, I just chip away a little bit at them, do 1 or 2. My first amends trip was a handful of them. But like just making progress on them and keeping up with my current 8 step. It's 8 and 9 has been where I've experienced the most freedom, hands down. It's like freaking out going in to make this amends to whoever it is, sitting down with them. I've been taught to not make amends over the phone. That's just what my sponsor says, and there's no right or wrong. If your sponsor says write a letter, write a letter. But I go back and I make these face-to-face amends, and I walk out so I can breathe. I'm free. You know, it's like I'm not holding on to the weight that I was going into there, and the fear that I was holding on to walking into the door. And like my life today it doesn't even compare. I mean, it's all thanks to you guys. It's all thanks to these steps. It's thanks to good sponsorship. It's thanks to good sponsees, you know, it's thanks to carrying this message. And when Devin texts me, just saying, okay, man, I'll be there. I'll do it. It's really simple. Just say, okay. That to me, I make things super simple. And I didn't know that the decision to come back here on June 13th to get back on the plane, I didn't know that I was taking a 3rd step, you know, and now today I continuously get to take a 3rd step every morning. It's like running through my 1, 2, 3 and making the decision. Am I going to continue to trust these principles? Am I going to continue to trust God in these steps in Alcoholics Anonymous? Or am I going to take the other road? And it's like today, it's not even, they're not even comparable. I just got married like I think it was 4 weeks ago today, actually. 4 weeks ago today, I just got married. I have a wonderful partner. I have 2 beautiful animals, kiddos. I sponsor guys. My family's back in my life. But like, I can honestly say the best part about my life is sitting down with people like Nick and sitting down in circles with guys. And like, I freak out about speaking in front of you guys about this stuff, but honestly, this is the easiest stuff to talk about. I talk about it every day. You know, my phone, such a luxury problem, and I try to tell my sponsor it's a real problem, but like my phone rings a lot, and it's guys in this fellowship, and it's people that need help, and like, those are instant ways for me to get out of myself. And like, going back to what I was saying, we're just takers. We're just spiritually immature human beings that just take and take and take, and we can't consider others. So like, the solution to my problem is it's really simple. Just turn my thoughts to you guys. So I'll pass. Thanks.